So now I'm going to show you how to make binding, and it's super easy. All you have to do is get your 4-inch piece of fabric. It's 4 inches wide, and just it really doesn't need to be much longer than this. You could probably get away with 10 inches. I'm going to put it on my ironing board that I've made out of a towel. If you have a nice wooden table, please don't iron on your table, iron on the floor. I happen to have a cheap fake marble table that I got off Facebook Marketplace, so I iron on this bad boy. So now I'm going to fold this 4-inch strip of fabric in half and just make a nice little crease in it. And now I'm going to press that. And if it doesn't want to go down, you can use a little steam. I'm going to come back and we can get a closer eye on the fabric now. So I've got it nice and pressed in the middle here. Now I'm going to open it back up. And I'm going to fold each side in on itself. It doesn't need to be perfect. We're just going to press those back into the middle. Watch your fingers. Now I'm going to take it and I'm going to flip it back onto that original crease, and that's going to give me my piece of binding. We'll iron it down again. And there we have it. That's a piece of binding. So it was one 4-inch piece, and now it has all these nice creases in it so we can sew it on the outside of our mask. So now I have my mask and the binding that we made, and I'm going to take it and put it right on the edge. You can do this with scissors. I just really think it's easier to use my mat and my ruler because I like to quilt. I'm gonna just take it, line it up, put my rotary cutter out, give it a slice. It measures about 3 3/4 inches. It's gonna vary from mask to mask. I like to measure it out as we go because some of them end up a little bit bigger and some of them end up a little bit smaller. Just on there. We'll cut this side. Now it's time to sew the edges on. This is the side that goes towards your face, and this is the side that goes on the outside. This mask is all going to be one pattern, which is this gray tree. So all my pieces, all my binding are all that same fabric. If you want to do an alternating fabric, like I have on this one, I used the pink fabric for the inside and the 4-inch strip, and then the teal for the 2.5-inch strips, and also the teal for the inside. It just depends on what your preference is. Put my ruler away. I'm gonna save this extra binding if I'm making any other masks. Take this back. You might want to pin these. I don't usually pin very much. Go back to my sewing machine, make sure my foot is up, slide it right in there and give it about, I'm giving it 1/4 of an inch. It's usually just a good spacing. I'm just gonna sew it straight across. I'm gonna snip my little strings. And you can see we just have a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Okay. So now I've sewn the other side on my little mask. Got it all ready to go. And I'm gonna take my long 2.5 inch wide strip of binding that measures, they usually, when you cut them straight off the roll, they measure about 42 inches. So I have made that into binding, as I showed you how to do earlier. And I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm gonna check the halfway point with halfway in my mask. Put it over on the other side. And then I'm gonna put the binding on both sides. So I'm gonna open up the binding and I'm gonna stick the mask inside the binding, just like I did with the binding on the sides. And I'm gonna take one of my pins and I'm just gonna secure it for now. That way I have an even amount of binding on both sides. I'm gonna come back over to my machine and I'm going to sew as close to the edge as I can. Now you really need to be careful with this because there's been a couple times where I haven't gotten the 4 layers of fabric. I've gotten 3 layers of fabric on the bottom and the pocket's been open and I've had to go back and sew it again. So just try to make sure that you can open it up and the pocket stays secure for your filter. You also might want to fold the insides of your binding in so you don't have a raw edge. This will keep them from fraying and it'll make your mask last a little bit longer. When I get up to the mask, I'm going to slow down, place the binding on the sides of the mask, take my little pin out, and continue to sew. So there's a spot here where I came a little bit off. No big deal. I'm just going to back stitch over that. These masks, they don't need to be super pretty. They just need to be secure. So I'm just going to go back. And then forward again, not a big deal. I'm going to stop my machine for a minute right here and I'm going to fold in the ends again. Just to make sure they don't fray. So I just folded the ends into the binding. At the end I'm going to slow down and back stitch. Just to make it sure we have a secure end.
lift up my presser foot,
Trim the end.
I'm gonna make sure I back stitched on this end because I don't think I did. I did not. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed this end back through and go ahead and give it a little bit more security. Just sew over it again. Whoop. Still back stitching. Go ahead and pause.